everyone, my name is Ji-yoon Kim and I'll be introducing an iconic photograph from 1987. This photo has had a significant impact since it was released on Reuters newspaper, and it instigated a lot more protest in South Korea, which later resulted in democracy. The title of the photograph is Death of a Student at 6:30 p.m., and it was taken by a Korean photojournalist from Reuters, Tae-won Jung, on June 9, 1987. It shows a student protester named Han Lee being fatally injured after a tear gas shell penetrated his skull during the June Democratic Uprising in front of Yonsei University front gate. Looking at his body, leaning against his friend and being tightly held, Han seems to be unable to stand on his own, being halfway unconscious. His friend, Jong-chan's eyes are squinting and his mouth are covered, which makes us guess how bad the air might have been from the tear gas. This picture was published on Reuters after it was taken, and it instigated more protest afterwards. The photographer of this photo, Tae-won Jung, learned photography from the American intelligence director at Tae-won U.S. Army Training Department and was recognized by his talent. He started working as a photojournalist of St. George's newspaper run by the U.S. Department of Defense and photographed Vice President Hubert Humphreys, who visited U.S. forces in Korea for U.S. Independence Day. Mr. Jung later moved to UPI, a global news agency, and took pictures in Gwangju, South Korea on Gwangju Democracy Movement in 1980. He became a veteran photojournalist of Reuters Korea branch in 1987 and photographed the moments of struggle for democratization of Korea. His quote on the day of June's struggle, when Han Lee collapsed, describes well of what happened. When I came down, there were a lot of police compared to the number of students. Only one school protested, and I think that all the police in Seoul gathered at the school. Student ranks were surrounded by the police with tear gas guns. It seemed to me that they would push the ranks into the school, but it looked like a strong push. When the police shot tear gas to the students from all three sides, the students fled into the school and I was shooting pictures as I ran along with the students. At that moment, I saw a student collapse through the smoke of tear gas. After Korea had won independence from Japan, Korea had established its own government, and there were several presidents who led the dishonest political tactics and used military power to rule over the country for a long time. Koreans had to fight for democracy beginning in 1960, and through this process, a lot of people were hurt and killed. Some were captured and tortured with no definite reason, no matter how old they were. During the regime of President Tae-won Jung, a student at Seoul National University, Jong-chul Park, was tortured and killed in 1987 by police which inflamed the public. The death of Jong-chul Park was the reason why so many university and college students raised up and participated in rallies and democracy movement. There were several small and big rallies being held throughout South Korea, especially by college students in Seoul. They wanted President Tae-won Jung to resign and end the military dictatorship. On June 9, 1987, the students from Yonsei University were protesting in front of school's front gate, but not long after, the police started shooting tear gas canisters, and one of them hit right on Han Lee's head. Only the photojournalist Tae-won Jung, who worked for a foreign news agency, could be there to capture the moment in pictures, because the local Korean journalists were restricted to document the democratic movement. In this picture, Han and his friend Jong-chang are in the center of the picture, taking up most of the space. Han body is the focal point, and the surrounding is blurred in this picture, that we can see more details of Han face and posture to know how he is unconscious and bleeding. For value, there is a wide range of tone from bright white on Han sweatshirts to the almost black shadow that sits on Jong-chan's shirt and pants. The smooth texture of their clothes are well shown, showing even the little wrinkles. The ground has a smooth surface which seems like concrete without many gravel. This picture was published as a Reuters article and showed the public harsh cruelty of police driven by President Tae-won Jung. This picture and Hanyul being unconscious made people feel outraged and come out to the streets to protest against the government. Hanyul died on July 5, 1987, and Koreans were filled with overwhelming sadness and anger. The entire nation was stirred up by the desire for the country's democracy. This picture is famous and well known among Koreans because it is the first photographic documentation of a young man dying in the democratic movement. There was no pictorial documentation of how Jongchul Park was killed, and it was not shown to the public clearly. However, this picture of Hanyul struck the nation and made people in all ages stand up to end the dictatorship. National Peace Parade and donations were made as a part of a mass citizen democratic movement, and after 16 years of dictatorship, Korea became a democratic country on June 29, 1987. This picture is a representation of Korea in 1980s and the start of Korean democracy.